Hi guys, Mate here with a new video, and just as the title suggests, I'm gonna teach you how to squat. But before we get into it, I just want to take a second and tell you guys how much I appreciate your support so far. You've been sending me messages about videos you want to see, you've been sending me comments, liking, and sharing my videos as well. It means the world to me. And when I started this project, I was actually kind of like looking into the future and hoping that I was going to get to this place. So thank you. And back to the squat now. What is a squat and how did it become what it is today? Well, the squat started just like a normal exercise, like let's say push-ups. But it changed over time. It has been adapted and adjusted to become what it is today. And the reason is because people saw the value in it. It saw how complex it is. And it doesn't matter that it's such a complicated exercise. People saw the value in it, and the value just was so much bigger than the effort you were supposed to put in to learn to do it properly, you know? So let's just talk about the functionality of the squat. Now, for example, when you're sitting down, that's no problem, okay? You're sitting down, the chair supports your weight, you're good. But when you're going upstairs or downstairs, or even when you're getting up from the chair, that's when the squat becomes a functional exercise. Just like the push-up becomes functional when you're getting off of the ground, or you're just, I don't know, let's say you're turning over in your bed while sleeping, right? So these exercises help you get through your day with much more ease and safer as well. So you're just basically exploiting your body safer and for a longer period of time. And that's just because of functional exercises like the squat. Now, because it's a multi-joint exercise, the squat has been adapted to this grandiose exercise. So let's get into the functionality a bit more. I was telling you that when you're sitting down or you're going upstairs or downstairs, the squat helps you do that safer and just more optimal, right? But it helps you while you're standing as well. It helps you, for example, if you have lower back pain, because it just engages the glutes in the exercise, and then they become more, they're toned and able to better sustain your lumbar spine than before, right? So now lower back pain can't happen because the tension and everything else is supported by your glutes, which are now activated because of the squat. So you see, you're doing the squat, but you're gaining so much more. And on top of that, even your lower back muscles are getting worked out as you do the squat. Medial back works as well, and upper back muscles too. So you get a full body workout just by doing the squat. And that is weighted or no weighted. So, you know, you gain so much from so little, right? And you can learn the squat from this video, and that's a small price to pay. Enough talk. Let's just go ahead and do it, and I'll give you a few pointers on what to do and what not to do. The first thing you got to think about when you're trying to squat is the stance, right? This is important because it dictates the center of gravity, and it also protects or affects your joints. I'm now talking about knees, I'm talking about your Achilles tendon as well, and I'm also talking about lower back and hips. Okay, so these can all be affected if you're performing a squat with a poor technique. Cool? So this is the stance with which I would suggest you to start with. This is the stance I'm using, and for an intermediate level of squatting, it's more than enough. Okay, I squatted with this stance around 130 kilos, and when I was in track and field, I used to do 180 kilos semi-squat. So semi-squat is like this with a jump as well. The reason I was doing that is totally different than the reason we're talking about doing a squat now. It's a whole nother thing, okay? We're gonna talk about that in a different video. But I was talking about the stance. So how do you approach, or how do you choose your stance? Well, first of all, you just do a few jumps like this, and when you decide you're done, you just do a big jump and then land. And that's how you land, right? And that's gonna be your stance. If not, just set up your feet shoulder wide, and then your toes should always point slightly outside, okay? Now, when you go into the squat itself, make sure that the knees are following your toes, okay? We have, actually this is easier. So if you look at somebody that's just standing up, without them knowing that you're looking at them, you're gonna notice that this is their usual stance. They're not gonna have their toes pointing forward and knees as well. They're gonna have their toes slightly pointing outside. And that's how we're anatomically and biomechanically built, okay? From this is really easy. And after you have the stance down, all you need to know is this. The squat, it's not done from the knees. It's done from the hips, okay? And that's it. That's all you need to do. All you need to know, okay? So what I mean by that, so I'm gonna turn a bit like this, and I have my stance. I'm gonna use my hips to squat, and I'm gonna show you what I mean. The first movement that occurs or should occur during a squat is pushing your hips back, okay? So just like this, from this position, you push your hips back, see? Back, and then you bend the knees, back and down. And that's how you perform a squat. Now, another thing you need to worry about when it comes to the squat, after the second point, which is the hips, it's gonna be the depth to which you're squatting. Now, I can go to 90 degree, so that's 90 degree here. I can't go lower because I don't have enough mobility in my lower back and hamstrings. But if you have good mobility, you could go lower. And how would you know if you've gone low enough or too low, okay? So I'm gonna show you. Check out my lower back, okay? So I'm going, this is okay, it's good here, and now I can feel it, that's gonna start to tuck in. See? It's tucking under. This movement here, like this, when that happens, that's when you know you've gone way too far. Another common mistake that happens, and I've seen it so many times while doing a squat, is you're leaning forward to create the illusion that you're actually going down in the squat, that you're actually achieving depth by squatting. So what I mean by that is, instead of dropping in a squat like this, see, my chest is forward, eyesight is forward as well, you're actually squatting like this, you see? And this gives you the illusion that you're squatting, but actually you're not. And you're using a lot more in your lower back muscles than you're using quads, hamstrings, and glutes. And those are the main muscles that you want to target while doing the squat. The interesting part, and the part that's not seen when doing the squat, is actually on the way back. On the way back up, I mean. So let's just say I'm here, okay? So how do I finish the squat? I'm halfway through now, okay? So I start pushing, but I push mostly in my knee. See my feet? They're free, okay? So I push up, and in the same time, I'm putting tension inwards. This is a technique called screwing, and it's basic, but in the same time, it's so important that you cannot skip it. You can't just pass it, because it ensures that you're engaging your glutes throughout the whole motion, and it ensures engagement of your adductors. These muscles are so rarely engaged in exercises other than the squat. It's crazy, and they contribute so much into hip mobility, stability, and overall strength, right? They maintain a balance in your hips, without which you're gonna end up having so many injuries and just muscle imbalances around your pelvic region. So I'm gonna demonstrate by doing a motion of inward sliding. You don't have to do this while squatting, you just have to put the force inwards as you come up. Can you imagine holding like a watermelon seed between your fingers and then squeezing it, and then the seed will just shoot off from between your fingers? That's the exact same thing we're doing here, okay? So I'm down into the squat, and when I come up, this is how this is the direction of force. The other force except for the one that's going all in the floor, right? So you come up and squeeze like this, down, squeeze. That's exactly what you're supposed to do, but without actually doing the movement. And that's going to, what's the word here? That's going to force you, I was looking for a different word, but anyway, that's going to force you to squeeze your glutes. And that is how you secure your lower back, okay? At the end, so from this position, this is how your squat should look like at the end. So you come up and then here. Glutes should be really, really tight, and by squeezing, you actually perform the full range of motion. You're gonna complete the squat because it's not finished here, it's actually finished here. When you slightly push your hips forward, because that's the movement your glutes are performing in that position. So far so cool, right? That was all theory with a little bit of practice. Now we're just going to do a few reps and we're going to recap everything that we talked about so far, okay? So, I'm taking the stance, my toes are slightly pointing outside, my knees are following my toes, and I'm about to start the movement and I'm going to describe everything I'm doing while doing it, okay? So I got my stance here. By the way, I'm using my arms like this just so I can balance myself better while talking, okay? So, I got my stance, my knees are in the right direction, and I'm going to start the movement by pushing my hips back. So, I push my hips back, I start bending my knees down, see, my feet are free, I'm not going any lower than this. I'm putting inward force and coming up, finishing the movement. Okay, so it's hips, knees, stop, inward force, up, squeeze. And that is how you perform a good squat, okay? That's the full technique, full description in, how do you say it? Deconstruction of the exercise. There are a lot more things to talk about when it comes to squatting, but for an intermediate level, or even above that, this is more than enough. If you're doing this squat, there is nobody out there that can tell you that you're doing it wrong. There's no reason for it, okay? So as long as you're pushing mostly in your heels and you got your core tight and do everything else that I showed you here, you're gonna be just perfect, okay? And it doesn't matter if you're using weight or no weight. What I told you and what I showed you here applies to both weighted squats and bodyweight squats. And we're done with the video. That is all you needed to know on how to squat. Okay, this is everything you need. And if you feel like you need more than this, just make sure that you go through this video about 3 or 4 times while practicing as well. And I promise you, by the end of the 3rd or 4th time, you're gonna have it. It's easy, and all you have to do is follow the instructions. Everything is here, all you need is here, so just get down to business. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, okay? See you guys online.